Check it, check it, check it. Welcome to Street Flames Crew. And like today we're gonna talk about the young thugger, YSL. You know, they low indictment. We're gonna talk about Lucci. Do we think he's a key witness in that case? We're gonna talk about Drake and XXXTentacion, and that's what we're gonna look at right now, gang. So just bear with me. We're gonna look at that right now, man. Got to just check it out. what I'm saying is, gang, like, do y'all understand what's going on, man? Like, it's just crazy. Like, that nigga ain't right, man. He ain't right, man. He ain't right. He ain't right. Not right.
For car insurance. Now look.
That boy ain't right, man. Them niggas, excuse my language, they different, man. They different. They ain't who you think they
His
are.
song "Look at Me" was incredibly similar to KMT and the Drake.
The crazy "Look at Me" was XXXTentacion's song, and Drake took that song from him. And the name of the song is KMT. If you look at them, if you listen to them two songs, you'll understand.
Definitely biting his flow.
I apologize to Drake for coming for his mom.
Do you think he deliberately did it, or maybe like?
Yeah, bro. Fuck yeah, bro. Fuck yeah, bro. And I'm not gonna say no names, nigga. A DJ hit me up. Not only a DJ, my manager at the time hit me up. Said, yo, this nigga Drake hit us up and he wants to talk to you.
Meanwhile, a snippet of
You see how Drake play these games? He's a wave surfer, man. He's a culture vulture.
song seemingly featuring Drake and Trippie Redd starts doing the rounds online. That song would end up becoming God's Plan. Now, in January, X announces his Helping Hand challenge.
I'll be going to a foster
Remember what Drake did that God Plan? This is the reason why he did it.
home, and I'm gonna be donating a bunch of clothes, a bunch of PS4s, like shoes, just different things to the kids. I'm gonna donate like a bunch of stuff to them. I was actually gonna start a movement called the Helping Hand, where you guys like record you doing good things for people and kind of spread that positive energy. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna be starting a challenge. It's called the Helping Hand Challenge, and in this challenge, the way to participate in this challenge is basically whoever makes the most donations gets to meet me, spend a day with me, gets to go out to dinner with me, kick it with me, play video games, and get like a shout out and just something simple, and maybe even a $1,000 reward. It's the one who documents and helps the most, not only homeless, but the most people in need.
This is another interesting development in X's career. My immediate thoughts upon seeing this, much like many people, were that it was pretty much just a blatant attempt for X to manage his public persona and score some karma points so that he might get slightly more favorable treatment from the judge. Challenge video, making Helping Hand try didn't really know or give a shit about stuff outright. Well,
The smallest thing just to bring another human being some joy, and please tag me in it somehow so I can see all the love being spread. You don't have to play the song in the background or have some hashtag. This isn't about strings and all other tactics being used. Just go be kind in any way you can, and let's all watch the world be nice to each other, even if it's for 24 hours. Thank you. Now, here's the thing. Because there's a couple words in there, a couple phrases that I was like, kind of seems like he's taking shots at that Helping Hand challenge. All right?
He is.
So in what was at least an exciting development for DJ, he actually got a phone call from Drake, and apparently the two of them chopped it up, had a conversation, and Drake said that he wanted to make it very clear that he wasn't actually trying to sneak diss X in his Instagram post. Hey, I thought it was a pretty obvious sneak diss, the people thought it was, but Drake said it wasn't. This wasn't really enough to convince X.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to take my remarks to Drake as a diss in any shape or form, because I am actually really happy about what
Just listen what he's saying. Like, he happy for Drake for doing what he did, but it's like, Drake, you took my style and then ran with it and don't acknowledge me after you wanted to do music with me. That ain't thorough at all, Drake.
he did for the city. All I wanted was basically to address the situation for what it was, because I was being contacted. Also, another thing, I am very, very, very grateful, and I am glad at least Drake was able to be publicized for the good that he's doing for the city.
But that is essentially the end of the story, and we all know that a few months later, sadly, it was all over.
There you go.
Deerfield Beach.
That's
the
when he
rapper
died.
XXX
Rest in
Tentacion
peace.
has been shot
X.
and currently targeted while shopping for a motorcycle.
It's pretty safe to say that Drake and X ended things on pretty bad terms, and after the
They try to say Drake had something to do with,
quite a few people
and
came
Amigos
out
had something to do with XXXTentacion because his trial up and their names came up and they gotta be subpoenaed.
With Drake and Travis Scott finally comes out.
They all gotta be subpoenaed. Amigos, Drake, all of them, they gotta be subpoenaed because they witnesses, so they gotta come.
Now, X's childhood friend and YouTube sparring partner Tankhead comes out and suggests that there's a scene in that video that is a direct diss towards X.
Watch this video. Watch this. Just watch this part.
And it doesn't end there. Before you know it, there's an army of YouTube hip-hop conspiracy theorists touting all sorts of ideas that X was killed by Drake, and Drake has been peppering hidden messages about this murder in his music for the past few years. Whether it's the lyrics that Drake recorded years before
See, under them.
this instant is all of the flirt on the door on over. From the info talking about he killed it. He starts it out by saying SMS, triple X, and he's not talking about a text message. He means
little things like that, y'all. Like, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's something up with Drake, man. There's something up with Drake, man. And you know that YSL situation, I believe they went back to court today or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and play that. We're going to play that, y'all. I want y'all to check this out. Right now. We're going to get into this Thugger case. You know, a lot of these people is taking deals. And I don't know. They making it harder for Thugger, man. They making it harder for Thugger. They making it harder for Thugger, man. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm leaving the joint up here. If anybody want to come up here, we could talk about this, man. Anybody want to come up here, we could talk about this, man. Like, we going to get into that Thugger situation, man. Let's get into it right now.
Yes.
Just there would be from a conviction following a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury, your right to obtain a passport, your right to receive, possess, or transfer a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of a felony which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all offenses, including any mental health offenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
And we gonna start it all over.
And will result in deportation, just like a conviction at a trial would. And this is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else.
You can get deported.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction?
Yes.
Just as there would be
Yeah.
from a conviction following a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
For example, your guilty plea may affect your right
That's
to vote,
crazy.
your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury,
Damn.
your right to obtain a passport, your right to receive, possess, or transfer a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand by pleading
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health offenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury,
I'm on
the
line.
right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights, and after each right, I want you to answer if you understand that.
Yes.
First, the right to a trial by jury.
Yes.
Next, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel hired by you or as a court-appointed counsel.
They all pleading guilty.
Trial your case.
Yes, ma'am.
It's all about
They all pleading guilty. This is what they doing, yo.
location.
This is what they doing, yo. That's what they doing. They trying to make it hard on Thugger, man. I just hope Thugger make it out of this situation. We back.
Yes, ma'am.
The right to testify on behalf and to present other evidence.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your decision to waive these rights and to be disapproved because you're a fact.
Yes, ma'am.
With respect to indictment 22 SC 183-572, where you're charged with count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, count 47, conspiracy to commit a crime, count 48, participation in criminal street activity, and count 55, conspiracy to commit a crime. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with a full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes,
Guilty.
ma'am.
Do you understand that you have 4 years from today's date for the felony charges to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
And Your Honor, if this case were to go to trial, the state would expect to show and prove that between January 24th of 2013 and May 8th of 2022, that the enterprise did unlawfully conspire to acquire and maintain and control of the United States currency and other personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity, and also, while members are associated with the enterprise, did unlawfully conspire to conduct and participate in directly in racketeering activity as described in our indictment, Your Honor. Associates of the enterprise, YSL or Young Slime Line, they did conspire to associate together with others.
They all copping out on them, y'all. Make sure y'all hit the like button, please. I ain't begging, but please hit the like button, man.
And in furtherance of that conspiracy, the defendants engaged in the activities enumerated within our indictment. Some of the objectives, Your
Hit
Honor,
that like button. Hit that like button.
preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through acts of racketeering activity, including murder, assault, and threats of violence. Also preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise by the posting of messages, images, videos, and songs demonstrating an allegiance to the enterprise and a willingness to engage in violence on its behalf. And those are just some of the ways in which they try to further the enterprise. Your Honor, the state would expect to show that this YSL started in the late 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue area of Atlanta, Georgia, and that some of the founders of this enterprise was Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug, also known as Slime, Walter Murphy, also known as DK, and Troctavia Stevens, also known as Tick, and also known as Slug. That this group uses a variety of identifiers, including colors, clothing, tattoos, and hand signs, as well as verbal and written identifiers. And Your Honor, specifically, how Mr. Sullivan contributed to this enterprise is that we have a number of Instagram postings of Mr. Sullivan. The first being, Your Honor, Mr. Sullivan was incarcerated, I believe, between 2014 and 2017. Upon his coming home from prison, we have a picture of him in that.
So they got all type of evidence on them.
In that video,
all type of evidence.
They posted this on social media, and the tag of that was original slime shit, and that was posted and tagged by this defendant, who's also known as Obama. We also have some imagery, Your Honor, also posted on social media with this defendant wearing red clothing with, on that clothing, it has MASA, which is a play on MAGA, which is Make America Slime Again. And then he also has several tattoos, identifying YSL, on his body, Your Honor. We also have a couple other postings of this defendant with other members of YSL, posted on, the internet. Specifically, two of the crimes that he was charged with, Your Honor, in this indictment are actually two telephone calls of individuals who were both housed at the Fulton County Jail. The first phone call was on February 22nd, 2022, Your Honor. And this is a phone call by one of the co-defendants, Christian Effinger.
Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe, man.
Called this defendant,
Y'all gonna give me a like. We're gonna talk about it. Hit the link, and we can talk about that. Hit that link right there, follow that link, and we can talk about this.
Your Honor, that phone call came after Mr. Bennett had already
Come
been
on.
attacked by
Let's
other
talk.
members of the White
It's open mic. It's open mic tonight. Come
Your
on.
Honor, although Mr.
Open
Sullivan
mic.
did take the phone
Talk to
call
me.
and agreed on the slime, it does not appear that that ever took place. Nothing happened to Mr. Bennett subsequent to that phone call. Second, Your Honor, we have a phone call on April 7th, 2022, where another co-defendant by the name of Cordarius Dorsey also called Mr. Sumlin on a jail call, and asked Mr. Sumlin to either rob.
It's always been inside me to make things. So merging art and business can be a little.
Like, they really trying to frame them. They got a lot going on. Hit that link, y'all. Hit that link. Hit that link. Please hit that link so we can have an open topic and we can talk. We can talk about whatever y'all want to talk about, the Megan situation, whatever.
Known as Heck. Mr. Dorsey provided
Master P. We can talk about the Master P situation, anything. Come on.
set up an armed robbery, and whatever would happen after that armed robbery. We later found through investigation that Head was an individual by the name of Harold Bennett. What we learned is there was nothing that happened to Mr. Bennett afterwards. So there was this agreement on the telephone. However, it does not appear that anything happened subsequent to those two telephone calls. Your Honor, those things, the social media posts, in addition to
See what they keep saying about them phone records. They trying to get them phone records because supposedly, allegedly, Lucci got hurt behind them bars, allegedly. So they trying to get them phone records so they can go ahead and do what they trying to do. Trust me.
those two phone calls is how Mr. Sumlin has furthered the enterprise in this case, and that's what the state would have expected to prove in this case we're going to go to trial.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hilton. Mr. Hoover, anything on behalf of your client?
No, Your Honor, we just.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, before signing this indictment, did you have the opportunity to fully discuss all of the facts and circumstances therein with your attorney, Mr. Hoover, to your satisfaction?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything about the indictment you wish to ask me or ask any questions about?
No, sir.
All right. I'll note the indictment's been signed and the plea has been entered. Mr. Sumlin, based upon the responses that you've given during the court's inquiry, I find that your guilty plea is freely and voluntarily entered. I find no factual basis for your plea. I'm going to accept your plea as tendered and as negotiated. As it pertains to you in count one, as conspiracy to violate the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, this court will sentence you to 15 years to serve on probation subject to the special conditions.
Damn. 15 years, man. Damn. Damn, man. Free YSL, man.
That have been set forth on the record already. in terms of your plea, and I'll go over some of those with you in just a minute. As it pertains to count 47, conspiracy to commit a crime, murder, this court will sentence you to 15 years to serve on probation subject to special conditions. Count 48 is participation in criminal street gang activity, YSL. This court will sentence you to 15 years to serve on probation subject to the special conditions already set forth. And on count 55, as it pertains to you, conspiracy to commit a crime, murder.
They taking pleas right in front of Young Thugger face, and he just don't know what the proffer is. But the thing about it is, they separated him from Gunna. That was mighty funny.
This court will also sentence you to 15 years to serve probation subject to the special conditions therein. All counts 1, 47, 48, and 55, will run concurrently to you. That means that concurrent means they run at the same time, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. As part of your this particular plea in this particular case, you understand that you need to abide in full by each of the terms of your negotiated agreement between you and the state. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
You also understand if you fail to do so, that may constitute a violation of your agreement.
Yes, sir.
You also agree that you'll testify truthfully about any and all matters in regards to this case if you are further asked in any further judicial proceeding stemming from the facts and circumstances in this indictment. However, you reserve your right to assert your Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You also agree to testify as to the acknowledgments that you have made within the terms of the plea agreement. Is that correct? The factual acknowledgments.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Okay, all right. And then also you agree not to possess any guns during the term of your sentence unless your rights to do so have been restored. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
You also understand and agree that you shall not commit any criminal acts. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Or you wouldn't be able to do that as part of the general condition.
I've been getting paid $1,000 a month, if not more.
So they all took little deals, man. They all took them little funny deals. And the crazy part about it is they all can't talk to Young Thug in no way, shape, or form. So it's like they all pleading in front of him. And he don't know what they deal was, man, because he about to get his affidavit and his paperwork 2 weeks before court. So it's gonna hurt Thugger, man.
Ways, right? So, okay, all right. Additional special conditions of your probation are as follows: that you'll be subject to a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. unless you're otherwise working in school. Situation like yours is that it's for two reasons. One, to protect you and those you better ensure that you'll complete your probation without a hitch. It is empirically established that a lot of crime occurs between about 11 and 4 in the morning. So if you're at home, you got family, you got other things that you are responsible for, it's less likely that something may happen. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no guarantee somebody won't come to your house and knock on your door and try and offer you harm, but it's less likely that will happen because you won't be in the street. Now, the other thing is, if you work the second shift, third shift, or say, for example, you got a small child, or your parents or your mother gets sick, you can certainly go and see about them. You can certainly take your child to urgent care, whatever. You can certainly pick up somebody from the airport if that becomes necessary. But you can't be at some other place if probation kind of finds you at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're at a strip club, you're gonna have some problems. You understand me?
Yes, sir.
All right. See the difference between the two?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure you understand that. Things that make common sense won't violate your terms of your probation. And Ms. Purdy, my probation officer, will, and whoever it is that's assigned as your probation officer, as long as you let them know you're working or whatever else, that, like I said, you get a job second or third shift, they'll just need to know that so if they're trying to check up on you, that you'll be good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
He going home at night. They took a deal right in front of Thugger face, man. This is crazy, man.
And then also for the pendency of this case, You can't have any contact with anybody else in this indictment, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. That would also go along with, as Ms. Purdy's going to tell you, you can't be associated with anybody else with a felony record. So that's why you couldn't necessarily have any contact with anybody. There's probably a few people on this who have had some prior contact with the law in terms of felony convictions. Okay, so don't have anything to do with anybody in this particular indictment. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. The terms of your probation may be suspended after 5 years, provided you don't violate the terms of the agreement and you violate no laws. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Your probation may terminate after. So that's suspended, the first part. Your probation may terminate after 10 years, provided you don't violate any terms and conditions of this agreement and violate any laws. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sir, do you have any questions about your sentence?
No, sir.
Counsels, that is Mr. Hoover or Ms. Hilton, any clarifications on the court's entry of sentence or defense entry of plea?
That nigga going home at night, man. All them niggas going home on Thugger. They pled guilty all in the Young Thug face. That's crazy. Like all in his face. Like that's really a form of betrayal. Just look at this. These people told. Let me see, we gonna go to this.
Recordings just got better.
We gonna go to this. What I'm saying, man, is more.
Thank you, Judge.
This is Young Thugger lawyer. This is Young Thugger, one of Young Thugger lawyers. He got 2-3 lawyers on his case. So pay attention.
Thank you. There's a lot that I want to say to the court. I'm going to finish my argument by referring to exactly what we're supposed to be doing here, which is talking about the law briefly. And I won't take too long because I know Mr. Steele has done an excellent job thus far of presenting what the court needs to have in front of it in terms of considering suitability of bond. But I want to start where the prosecution left off and talk to the court briefly about why it's so dangerous to have the state make a presentation in a manner that it did. This statement, and this is kind of emblematic of the entirety of the state's argument. If you give Mr. Williams a bond, that I'm afraid there are going to be more witnesses who are in danger, or more witnesses who are threatened, or something to that nature, right? And the thing that's so disingenuous about that statement is that just about 10 minutes or 15 minutes into in the prior argument, Mr. Gary conceded that there is zero evidence that there are any threats being made that can be tied in any form or fashion to Mr. Williams.
Well, I think that's not the statement. I think he said as well that there are proffers from other gang members that he's the leader of the gang, he's dangerous, you cross him, and he'll kill them or kill their family. So there is something the court has heard thus far.
If we're breaking it down, Judge, what Mr. Gary was talking about in that regard is what I presume he believes will be evidence in the case. Now, in talking about the bond, in talking about whether or not there is any evidence before the court, right? And there was this discussion earlier.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, I take you all in your word for it, Mr. Adams. I mean, it's a proffer. I mean, it goes to the state's contention of whether or not he's a danger to the community. One of the things I have to look at in the one factor.
So Thugger gotta take a proffer too.
Whether or not I take it as value certainly is dependent upon what I in terms of weighting the situation, weighting what's been proffered thus far.
And I understand that. What I would ask the court to pay close attention to and to keep in mind is that allegations put forth by the state in regards to what they say is evidence that is going to be forthcoming are exactly that, allegations that have not been vetted, that may or may not be accurate, that will come before this court, presumably, during the course of a trial. But for purposes of the bond, and for purposes of whether or not Mr. Williams, if given a bond, is going to return to court to face process of the court, to face these charges, whether or not there's evidence that goes to his guilt or innocence, whether he is guilty or not guilty of these charges, is not what is before the court.
You're absolutely right.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to waste your breath on that.
Right.
I'm very familiar with Mr. Williams and the other co-accused, presumption of innocence, and the court deems them as being innocent of these charges. I'm asked to pass on bond, and the bond is predicated on, on the issues that the appellate case law tells me I need to kind of consider.
So let me then address some specific things that Mr. Gary said, that the state said in their argument.
All right.
The state started their argument by saying that this is all about money, and to be quite honest, that's a little bit of that's a little insulting, because the inference is that if Mr. Williams has means or has resources, that that is a bad thing, that he is trying, in their words, to quote, I can buy a bond, is what the state said. They said he wants to, quote, pay his way out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they said.
Well, I think that they're saying,
lawyer.
It's a fact. Is resources of the accused in this particular circumstance, but it has to be taken into context with other things. So I'm not saying that. I understand that assertion that we're.
Think about it. Them lawyers know what they talk about, and they know they in the wrong. They experts. They pulled up to the to the podium and everything. A lot of them wasn't credible. So the judge is being biased right now.
Things I have to look at in the one factor. So, right out, I take it is its value. Certainly is dependent upon what I in terms of weighting the situation, weighting what's been properly far.
And I understand that. What I would ask the court to pay close attention to and to keep in mind is that allegations put forth by the state in regards to what they say is evidence that is going to be forthcoming are exactly that, allegations that have not been vetted, that may or may not be accurate, that will come before this court, presumably, during the course of a trial. But for purposes of the bond, and for purposes of whether or not Mr. Williams, if given a bond, is going to return to court to face process of the court, to face these charges, whether or not there's evidence that goes to his guilt or innocence, whether he is guilty or not guilty of these charges, is not what is before the court.
You're absolutely right. You don't have to waste your breath on that.
Right.
I'm very familiar with Mr. Williams and the other co-accused, presumption of innocence, and the court deems them as being innocent of these charges. I'm asked to pass on bond, and the bond is predicated on, on the issues that the appellate case law tells me I need to kind of consider.
So let me then address some specific things that Mr. Gary said, that the state said in their argument.
All right.
The state started their argument by saying that this is all about money, and to be quite honest, that's a little bit of that's a little insulting, because the inference is that if Mr. Williams has means or has resources, that that is a bad thing, that he is trying, in their words, to quote, I can buy a bond, is what the state said. They said he wants to, quote, pay his way out of jail, is what they said.
Well, I think that they're saying it's a fact. is resources of the accused in this particular circumstance, but it has to be taken into context with other things. So I'm not saying that. I understand there's that assertion in that regard, but it's more so the court's going to consider it from an issue of its context of other things.
Yes, sir. And one of the things
and wealth being able to, you can make bond. I mean, so I understand that.
And that's precisely the point. The fact that Mr. Williams may have means or may have resources by which that can be brought to bear. Those resources are being brought to bear for purposes of assuring the court of his reappearance. Because the other way, of course, to look at it, as you've heard from some of the witnesses, is that there's a lot at stake. That if he does not reappear in court, that there are financial resources, there are people's well-being that are put at financial stake because of that. And that is certainly something the court can consider in regards to whether or not he would reappear. Now, what I also think is an inappropriate argument is that the witnesses who took their time to come in here and testify about their knowledge of Mr. Williams, about his background, about what he's done, about his ties to the community, about his investments in the community and so forth, and his employment, his financial status, his job.
See, Thugger been doing a lot for the community. You gotta remember, he freed 28 people, and 28 people got locked up. They was targeting Young Thugger.
They took their time and came in and testified. I would submit to the court honestly about their knowledge to you about Mr. Williams. I do not believe that there's anything to suggest that anyone who came in here and testified came in because of a financial motive. That they have something to gain or something to lose financially by coming in here and speaking honestly to the court about their knowledge of Mr. Williams, which is what the court needs to make its decision.
I'm taking it from the standpoint of he has significant ties to the community.
And that is, thank you, Judge, and that is exactly what I would suggest that information was. That is what was presented to you, that he has strong ties to the community that weighs in to his benefit if he, as the court considers, bond. Now, one of the things that the state referenced, that the state asked you to consider, was whether or not he is a flight risk. And I want to roll this into a discussion of the bond hearing that was held before Magistrate Judge Wolf some weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm going to mark that as Court 2 for purpose of the motion. That was done on the 11th of May and filed into our e-file system, or Odyssey, I should say. So I'll make that part of the record.
Yes, sir. That was on a Wednesday. I was present for that bond hearing. I was there, and I can tell the court that that would have been 2 days after Mr. Williams was originally arrested. He came for a first appearance. I'll tell you that the court, Magistrate Judge Wolf, heard argument from both sides as to the suitability of bond. And I will tell you as an officer of the court that Magistrate Judge Wolf was concerned about the fact that the indicted case was already assigned to you. That there was someone that Mr. Williams was already assigned to on a separate case, a separate but related case. And there were discussions about whether or not, because he had resources, he was a flight risk. Because he had money, he had the ability and the wherewithal to leave. And Judge Wolf, I will tell you, in denying the bond, which he did, essentially indicated that he asked me very many questions about whether or not it was a bond hearing scheduled in front of Your Honor, and whether or not you'd be considering the issue of bond on the indicted case, and that he would defer, that he was going to deny bond at the time, but he was going to defer to Your Honor because the other case was in front of you and because that case was related. And so it is my impression from the hearing on that day and the denial of bond that the court anticipated that you would be making the larger decision as regards whether or not Mr. Williams receives bond on both matters or not. And of course, both matters are in front of you now. Now, there is, in regards to flight risk, whether or not he's a flight risk, and some of what the state has said, there is...
They really think he gonna be a flight risk, but y'all let NBA Young go home and all that, and all this and all that. It's like, come on, man.
There's no indication that he's a flight risk. Mr. Gary referenced a failure to appear. and yet conceded that he doesn't know anything about that failure to
It's for a traffic offense. It's of diminished value to the court, but I'm more interested in the access to the private jet.
Yeah, well,
at PDK in DeKalb.
and so that's the thing, because our suggestion to the court is that he be placed on house arrest. That he be placed on house arrest. That he have an ankle monitor. That there are post-certified law enforcement officers who are responsible for making sure he complies with the court's conditions. There is no suggestion on our part that he be allowed to fly by way of private jet, commercial jet, helicopter, or anything of that nature. And so the argument that because he has resources, he has in the past has had access to a private jet, that is something the court should be concerned about. We would suggest to you that
They just worrying about his money. This whole thing is about money. That's all.
that is not something for you to consider, because we're not asking that he be allowed to have that access. You heard from Mr. Middlestadt, who indicated that what would happen essentially is if the court were to graciously grant bond for Mr. Williams, he would be released from where he is now. He will be transported by law enforcement officers to the location that the court has indicated, and he will stay there. And if he is to leave to come to court, for the only reason, that he would do so under supervision and under guard of law enforcement officers. And when Mr. Middlestadt testified, I think he was clear and he was deferential to the court in regards to what the requirements would be. These are going to be post-certified law enforcement officers who are sworn to uphold the law. We did not suggest that private security, just any individual off of the street, serve as the people who would guard the house where Mr. Williams would be confined. As a matter of fact, the list of those individuals was provided to the court. They can be vetted. We have indicated and we have suggested to the court that the DA's office can vet them if they want to. They can go to the home. And quite frankly, circling back around to this private jet issue, let me tell you, Mr. Williams doesn't own a jet, has never owned a private plane or a private jet, and he would not even have access to that because we're suggesting that the court not allow that.
Trying to get him a bell, man. Trying to get him a bell. They just don't want to give it up. They don't want to give it up. They scared.
It is of some particular note that at the time that Mr. Williams was arrested, when the police came to the house, there were SWAT team officials and plainclothes officers who came to the house. We've seen the video. There were individuals approaching the house from different locations with guns. And the state made reference to the fact that one of the individuals tried to run. It wasn't Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams never tried to leave. He never tried to run. He didn't abscond. He didn't try to fight the officers. He went with them. And so there's no indication that he was a danger to flee. In fact, he had just gotten back into town the day before, and you have heard that the only other time when there was a warrant that was issued for Mr. Williams' arrest, he left a tour, left Las Vegas, left those resources, came right back to the cab, turned himself into custody. And so everything that you've heard, all of the evidence, the facts that you heard, would speak against him being a flight risk. He is not, and they have not presented any evidence that he's a flight risk. An argument in and of itself that he is not sufficient for the court. Is there any danger that he would threaten or intimidate witnesses? We've discussed that a bit. There was some discussion in another bond hearing previously, and I'm wary about trying to make comparisons or make reference to bond hearings regarding any other individuals, because Mr. Williams deserves to have his bond considered simply based upon the factors involving him, characteristics involving him, his suitability for bond, not anybody else. But this talk that we heard previously about people with phones in jails, or people making phone calls, or there are witnesses who are terrified right now. Other than the state purporting to have
How they supposed to have over 300 witnesses, but a lot of them scared to testify? They sloppy.
other quote unquote what they say are gang members or someone's mother who's saying that there are threats being made, that there has been no evidence other than that assertion, that allegation presented to the court. He has been locked up since the 9th. They have access to his phone calls. They're recorded. They have access to, I mean, he's locked up 22 hours out of the day, sometimes 23, but you've not heard any indication here that, well, he made a recorded phone call and there was something that he said in that phone call that we perceive as a threat, or he's contacted someone and he has asked them to do something that we believe is commensurate with intimidating a witness or trying to influence a witness. You've not heard any evidence of that. And so there's simply no evidence to substantiate their allegation that he would be a threat to intimidate witnesses. Now, moving specifically to the indictment, and I heard you say it before, and I accept when the court says, Mr. Adams, I know that guilt or innocence is not the province of a bond hearing, and thank you for that. But they spent a good bit of time going through the indictment, but what they actually did is they simply read their allegations. These are their allegations. Right? These are what they say Mr. Williams did, or what they believe Mr. Williams offenses they believe he's committed. They have to prove that, and there is
Yep, they gotta prove it. That's all that hearsay what they talking about.
nothing to suggest that simply because they have sat down and drafted up an 88-page indictment that the allegations in this indictment are accurate or are true. I've been doing this for a long time, and there have been times, many times, when the allegations put forth by the state have simply not been borne out at trial. So the state can stand up here and sound as certain as they want to that, hey, we think the evidence is going to, or we know that the evidence is going to show X, Y, Z. And then when months later, after the court has considered that in regards to whether he gets a bond, when we're actually standing up in the courtroom, they don't prove it. Or it turns out not to be true. Or a witness that they say is going to say something, says something different. Or is impeached. Or someone is proven to not be telling the truth. And so to stand here and say, well, there's a song lyric that we believe is relevant in the case and they're talking about a particular incident is trying to convince the court that their allegations are true, trying to convince the court that their allegations are factual, and there's nothing to say that that is the case at this point. In Mr. Musgiri, the prosecutor, asked the court to look at several acts in the indictment. Started with Act 9. And
I'm sorry I'm late, y'all, but you know this is what's going on, man. So just keep tuning in, man. We gonna get through this together, y'all.
The prosecutor, I noticed, read or paraphrased some words in Act 9. All I ever wanted was the money, and then moved on to put him in a wheelchair, taking it totally out of context. This is a song, and the dangerous thing about where we are with them believing that they can pick and choose song lyrics or portions of song lyrics is that they don't know what they're talking about, but they're putting it in here as though it's fact. They could not tell you, I guarantee, who wrote the song, who was actually singing a particular lyric in this song, or what the song is referencing. And that's what's dangerous. And I know at some point we're going to be arguing about whether these song lyrics go to anything specific in the indictment. But Judge, I would just ask you to take a look at what's been proffered, or what's been presented to you. Act 9. Read just like Elmo, but I never effing giggle. Well, what does that mean? And what does the next line mean? You know, what is that? Is that referencing something specific, a specific count of the indictment? They can't tell you that. And it's taken out of context. You know, last week when we had a bond hearing, Bob Rubin represented one of the other individuals, said something that I thought, as a 56-year-old person who grew up in Brooklyn with rap music and all of that, thought was particularly insightful. He said, Judge, you know, it seems kind of bizarre, you know, some 50-something-year-old white guy is trying to tell you what, you know, someone who's a rapper means in a particular song. And I don't mean to suggest that that some people have greater sensibilities about rap music than others, right? But what I am suggesting is that it is somewhat disingenuous to simply quote portions of song lyrics when you don't really know what they are, and to take them out of context, and to not know who wrote the song or who's actually singing the song. Because I can tell you, I've poured through this indictment, and I know for a fact that there are some of these lyrics that are quoted or attributed to Jeffrey Williams that were not written by him, and that were not sung by him. But when do we find that out? In the middle of trial? After they've stood up here and try to convince you that you ought to use these lyrics as incendiary as they sound to deny him bond, and then 8, 9, 10 months later, oh, that wasn't Jeffrey Williams. And that's why it's so dangerous to have the state. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. I was going to, but I'm not going to because I'm mindful of the time. But I think the court gets my point that to quote song lyrics and Instagram posts or group chats or group texts that we, by the way, contest in several of them is not Jeffrey Williams, and that he did not say that and did not say those things. And there's no greater force to them standing up here and saying that he said those things than us saying he didn't. It's an equal footing, and it shouldn't be considered because it's just something that has to be proven later on.
You know what to do, right?
In Act,
you put it in the pocket.
I thought this was funny.
You open
Act,
it up
70,
and put it in the pocket.
74, I think it is. Did the state reference? Act 74. Now that one I thought was particularly interesting and is, I think, symptomatic of what is flawed about the state's
Make sure it's
argument as to
standing
why
up.
you should
Make sure it's
consider
up, boy.
everything they've read to you or presented to you.
Make sure it's standing up.
Act 74 references
Is that the right
Jeffrey
way?
Williams releasing a video.
Go ahead, just put it
They
in
said
there.
it was released on 4/12/18. I'm
Yeah,
going to
open it,
suggest that at some
put
point
it
in
at
the
the
future
bottom.
they'll go back and they'll correct that.
Boom.
And they'll
Put it
recognize
in.
that this was a song
Push that
anybody
button.
that was
At the
written
bottom, all the way
by
at the bottom.
Jeffrey Williams, Nicki Minaj,
Yeah.
and a third writer.
Thanks.
And that some of the lyrics that are in here are actually lyrics that were sung by Nicki Minaj. But they don't know that.
See? These DAs, they don't know what they talk about, and they trying to incriminate people with these rap lyrics, and they don't know what they talking about. See, the thing about it is these witnesses, these snitches, they the ones that's telling them about these songs and stuff. That's the only way these rappers and stuff is getting caught up.
They don't know that, but they stand up here and say this with the force of authority, thinking that that's going to be... And they made that essential part of their argument. What did they say? They said, the song lyrics say, I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body. And that, Judge, is exactly where we're telling you that Jeffrey Williams, no, he may not have ever killed anybody that we know of, but he's the man in control, he's King Slime, he's the one who's running everything, and he's confessing it by saying that in this song. I told him to shoot 100 rounds. They left out the other line that comes after that. Like they're trying a movie about it. Like they shoot a movie. I mean, it's laughable, but it's an issue for later on down the road. Judge, in regards to the court's consideration, 4 things, maybe 5. If you have everything in front of you, Judge, that the court needs to make a determination about whether Mr. Williams is suitable for bond. I would contend respectfully that he is. There are no greater set of assurances that any defendant can put in front of you that can give you some assurance that he will reappear for trial than we have done. We have given the court every possible option I would suggest to you, and we have offered up the ability to have the court have its say in everything in terms of which of his residents, what house he lives in. Right? The court and the DA can have access to video feed from the house, so they can see what's going on in the house while he's there. That these law enforcement officers who will be properly vetted, who have been properly vetted, who will be there and will be responsive not to Mr. Williams, not because it's being paid for by Mr. Williams, but because they're responsive to the court, and will have reports that are submitted to the court or to the DA's office. So we've put that in front of you, Judge. We're asking you to take that assurance and give it significant consideration, not because he's able to pay for it, but because it's going to accomplish what you need for it to accomplish to show you that he'll show back up. We have suggested and we have put before you the option of he needs to work, but having a studio built at his residence where and inspected by law enforcement to ensure that there's nothing untoward going on there, so he can do what he does. That's his job. We have suggested to the court that, not suggested, we're happy to surrender his passport, even though it's not an issue, he's not leaving the house, but we'll surrender it anyway. We have suggested that his calls can be monitored, and so any device that's used to make any phone calls can be monitored. And so whoever he talks to, whatever he says to them, will be known. Anyone who comes to the house has to be cleared and will be known. But the court would have to approve a list of individuals who can come to the house. There is, in short,
they trying to give him every way out. Young Thugger, salute the Young Thugger. He's trying every way to get out, man. It's just his judge. He's biased, man. And the DAs, they know he got the money. They know he can buy himself out of jail. They just don't want him to. They want him.
Nothing more that we or any defendant can give to the court to satisfy what the court would have in front of it to ensure that he returns to court. Mr. Williams has not been convicted of anything before, and he stands before this court with some very serious allegations, but we're ready. We're going to be ready. We'll be ready to address them at the appropriate time. But we ask that you consider, respectfully, granting him a bond that allows him to be free from that custody, yet still confined under the court's order, to allow us an opportunity to properly prepare for this trial, we think it's appropriate, Judge. A bond is appropriate. Whatever you believe is an appropriate amount of bond with all of the conditions that we've put in place, or we've suggested to the court, or whatever else the court wants to add. But we believe that we have done everything that any defendant could possibly do to show the court that bond is appropriate. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Adams, thank you.
Building your online business?
Now we going to the board. That's not credible. We going to the board. That's not credible. Main man is not credible, but watch how they chew him up.
All right, go ahead, Sora. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court once again.
Watch this, y'all.
You're aware of the rules of evidence in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay, that dictate what is admissible at trial?
That's correct.
Okay. You are aware that the rules of evidence are different for a RICO case, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
You're aware that typically in a criminal case, quote unquote, bad character evidence is not admissible against a defendant.
With exceptions governed by 404B.
Right. And 404B, propensity evidence would not be admissible under 404B.
No, it's motive, intent, knowledge, plan or scheme, preparation, absence of mistake or opportunity.
You're aware of the fact that my client, Mr. Stillwell, because this is a RICO case, is being tried for 2 murders at the same time, correct?
I am familiar with the second murder from earlier this year, yes.
You're also aware that because this is a RICO case that was indicted in 2022, my client is accused of over a dozen overt acts that are listed in the indictment.
I am generally aware of the format of the indictment. I haven't studied it. If you're telling me that then I'm sure that's true.
You would agree that oftentimes, if people are simultaneously accused of 2 separate crimes, they receive different trials for different crimes, correct? Different allegations.
Well, it would depend on if it was, for example, a crime spree based, temporal proximity being very close that the incidents are almost considered one continuous incident, then you may indict them together. But particularly given the length of time between the 2 incidents, you would generally indict them separately, correct?
Okay, so, and you're aware that the other murder that is alleged against my client is from 2022.
Correct.
You would agree that that would not have temporal proximity, correct?
No, I would. If these were just 2 complete.
They about to chew him up. Just watch this, y'all. Just stay here and watch this. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'm on. Come on. Let's ball.
Completely independent murders, I would not put the 2015 murder on the same indictment as the 2022 murder. They'd be 2 different murders under normal circumstances.
As a lawyer, can you see where that would be prejudicial against my client?
Well, yes, I suppose if you were to have 2 murders on the indictment, then the jury would be told initially that there was a finding of probable cause on not 1, but 2 different murders. And so I can understand that.
What about evidence being presented and discussed about the actions of other individuals for things that occurred years after 2015? Would those typically come in for a murder that happened in 2015?
Well, it would depend. If it was a gang-related murder, maybe. Because, when there's a gang charge that's placed on somebody, then there's a lot more evidence that can come in related to the street gang.
What about if your office decided to indict this 2015 incident in a timely manner and didn't wait till 2022? Would this case have already been tried?
Objection as to speculative and argumentative.
I stand object.
See, they scared. They scared. He getting in their ass. He's scared. Come on. Come on. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe. Come on.
Are you, through your investigation, did you come across a gentleman by the name of Termon Stillwell?
I did. Yeah, Detective Thorpe and I spoke with him, I believe, in early 2016.
Okay, and Termon Stillwell, who found Termon Stillwell?
I believe it was Detective Thorpe. It wasn't me, so it must have been Detective Thorpe. And I don't recall how he learned about Termon Stillwell.
Ever ask Detective Thorpe about the circumstances on how he found Termon Stillwell?
Objection, Your Honor, as to the relevance.
Yeah, what's the relevance, sir?
I mean, this is the investigation we've been talking about.
Mr. Sprinkle,
This is the investigation we've been talking about that we admitted this report as part of, and I'm asking about the investigation. I'm cross-examining the investigation.
The objection. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead and answer that.
So if I remember correctly, he was in the Fulton County Jail. Well, we interviewed him at APD, but he was brought over from the Fulton County Jail. Contemporaneous with his arrest, he told, and From what I remember, he definitely told somebody with the Atlanta Police Department that he had information on the murder. And if I remember correctly, it was the members of the Apex unit. They may have been the ones that arrested him. But at any rate, he said something to some police officer that he knew something about the murder. That got back to Detective Thorpe, so Detective Thorpe told me about it, and then Detective Thorpe transported him from the Fulton County Jail to APD where we interviewed.
Did you ever talk to the member of the Apex unit to confirm that they were the ones that had first contact with Tremont Stillwell?
I don't recall.
And Tremont Stillwell, he was in jail for what?
I don't recall.
Family violence battery, I believe.
Okay. Felony?
I don't remember if he was a recidivist or not. It may have been. I just don't remember.
And who was he accused of battering, beating?
I think it was his wife, if I remember correctly.
What's her name?
That I don't recall.
Would it be Vanetta Guffey?
That's it.
Okay. And so Mr. Stillwell, Tremont Stillwell, let me be clear. Tremont Stillwell came to your attention, and did you have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Stillwell?
I did.
And when was this?
March 22nd, 2016.
So we're still back in 2016.
We are.
Okay. And did Mr. Tremont Stillwell claim to know my client Shannon Stillwell?
Yes, I believe he said that they were relatives. They were related. Like it was Mr. Stillwell, Tremont Stillwell, said he was his cousin, if I remember correctly.
Did you ever confirm that there was any family relation?
Well, apart from their last name being the same, or one of Mr. Stillwell's, Shannon Stillwell's last names, because he was known as either Jackson or Stillwell. I mean, even back in 2016, I knew that was one of his aliases. I was never completely clear as to which name was actually his name, Shannon Jackson or Shannon Stillwell.
Okay, well, let's just benefit of the doubt, it's Shannon Stillwell. Did you ever independently, other than they had the same last name, confirm that there was any relation between the two?
I don't remember.
But Tremont Stillwell claimed that he was Shannon's uncle.
I thought it was cousin.
Cousin, okay.
Yes.
And Tremont Stillwell was in jail at the time that he met with you guys, correct? I know that you brought him over to APD headquarters, but he had pending charges.
That's correct.
Okay. And he gave you some information he claimed could be used against Shannon Stillwell.
But they let him go and he told on somebody else because his case was dismissed. Wow.
That is correct.
Okay. And he claimed that back in 2015, Shannon Stillwell ran up to him while he was walking with his wife in the park.
That is correct.
Did he indicate which park?
I don't recall the park. I just recall it being August, or it was sometime during the fall of 2015 that Tremont Stillwell, as he strolled through the park with his wife, Miss Guffey, he came upon Shannon Stillwell, who complained of getting shot at some point in the very recent past, and that the reason for this was that he had participated in the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Okay, and according to Mr. Stillwell, according to Tremont Stillwell, Shannon Stillwell said that Kenneth Copeland, the state's witness, was also involved.
That I don't. Yeah, actually, I think he did say that. Now that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And if Tremont Stillwell was to be believed, that would be a confession coming out of Shannon Stillwell's mouth.
A third-party confession, yes, sir.
Okay. And of course,
That's hearsay.
as we saw with Mr. Wright, Mr. Stillwell, Tremont Stillwell, had pending charges at this time.
He did.
And as an investigator, you wanted to corroborate what Tremont Stillwell was claiming that he had witnessed.
That's correct.
And you were also aware that there were many street rumors going around at that time?
There were, yes.
Okay. So you sought to corroborate the statement of Tremont Stillwell.
That is correct.
And you decided to call in Miss Vanetta Guffey to talk to her about the situation, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And speaking of Vanetta Guffey was important because she was the person that Tremont Stillwell claimed was his wife.
That's correct.
And that Tremont Stillwell was claimed was present when Shannon Stillwell supposedly made this statement, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you were able to speak with Miss Vanetta Guffey, correct?
Yes, I believe I definitely remember speaking with some female after that Tremont Stillwell interview, and it was related to that interview, and it didn't go very well.
Okay, now, Mr. Sprinkle, I want you to know that I have no objection, of course, subject to the judge's rulings, to you referring to your notes to answer these questions.
I'm actually referring to the Exhibit 11 to...
Your report.
Right.
And I have no objection to that at all. So we're clear on this. What page are you on?
Well, the pages aren't numbered, but I'm on the page that starts with on May 11, 26. Oh, whoa, it just so happens I'm on the right page.
All right, cool.
All right, so it was on May 11, 2016 when Detective Thorpe and I interviewed Vanetta Guffey on the 7th floor of my office, the DA's office.
Okay. And you said it was you and who that interviewed her?
Detective Thorpe, Jim Thorpe Jr. with the Atlanta Police Department.
And how did you get Miss Guffey to come to your office?
I don't recall. I believe if I had to, hold on, let me see.
Did you tell her it was about Tremont Stillwell's case about him beating her?
I believe so. That sounds right.
Okay, so is it, and I'm not suggesting it's illegal. Let her about why you wanted to speak.
Well, I mean, as a practical matter, I mean, that it was a legitimate area of inquiry as well. She was a victim on a case, but, we didn't want to tell her about the murder, because she didn't even know that she was part of the murder investigation yet. So to get her into the office, we thought it would be better to just not tell her about that part, and rather just tell her about the case in which she already knew she was a witness.
Okay, fair enough. And you eventually told her you wanted to speak to her about this case.
That's correct.
And did you tell her that Tremont had said that she may have witnessed something?
I did.
Do you remember exactly how you worded it? I shouldn't say exactly. Can you paraphrase how you worded it if you don't remember exactly?
I asked her about Shannon. And asked her if she knew of Shannon. She said that she did, that she considered him her little nephew. And she also said she wasn't fond of Tremont Stillwell because, going back to the case in which she was a victim, because of him beating on her. At the time in the interview, Mr. Tremont Stillwell was still in the Fulton County Jail. All I remember is that when we brought up Shannon, her mood, she was relatively pleasant at the beginning of the interview. And after we discussed the battery and moved on to Shannon, she was her mood changed. Shannon Stillwell, your client, her mood changed rather dramatically. In fact, it culminated in her storming out of the room and basically running out of the office.
Right. And she made it clear to you that you shouldn't believe a word that Tremont Stillwell says.
She called him a liar.
Right.
As she stormed out, I believe she called him a liar.
He's unreliable.
Right. That's what she said.
And you don't dispute that Miss Guffey knows Mr. Tremont Stillwell very well.
No, she knew him pretty well. I mean, she was a victim on a family violence battery case, so you have to know somebody pretty well to be considered a victim of a family violence offense.
You're a liar.
Mr. Sharp, before you pose your next question, how much longer do you think you'll have?
I was about to ask like 3 more questions.
Oh.
Unlike Mr. Menendez, I think I'm being...
Who's 2 is not really 2?
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'll be the judge of that, okay?
They scared because he chewing them apart. He chewing him apart, man. Just pay attention.
This is number 1. Coming up right here, okay?
Pressure on. Mr. Sprinkle, did Miss Guffey indicate to you that...
Oh, shit.
Did Mr.
August, or it was sometime during the fall of 2015 that Tremont Stillwell that interview, and it didn't go very well.
Okay, now, Mr. Sprinkle, I want you to know that I have no objection, of course, subject to the judge's rulings, to you referring to your notes to answer these questions.
I'm actually referring to the Exhibit 11 to...
Your report.
Right.
And I have no objection to that at all. I want, so we're clear on this. What page are you on?
Well, the pages aren't numbered, but I'm on the page that starts with on May 11, 20...
So, is it, and I'm not suggesting it's illegal for you to do this, but you misled her about why you wanted to speak.
Well, I mean, as a practical matter, I mean, that it was a legitimate area of inquiry as well. She was a victim on a case, but, we didn't want to tell her about the murder, because she didn't even know that she was part of the murder investigation yet. So to get her into the office, we thought it would be better to just not tell her about that part, and rather just tell her about the case in which she already knew she was a witness.
Okay, fair enough. And you eventually told her you wanted to speak to her about this case.
That's correct.
And did you tell her that Termon had said that she may have witnessed something?
I did.
Do you remember exactly how you worded it? I shouldn't say exactly. Can you paraphrase how you worded it if you don't remember exactly?
I asked her about Shannon and asked her if she knew of Shannon. She said that she did, that she considered him her little nephew. And she also said she wasn't fond of Tremont Stillwell because, going back to the case in which she was a victim, because of him beating on her. At the time of the interview, Mr. Tremont Stillwell was still in the Fulton County Jail. All I remember is that when we brought up Shannon, her mood, she was relatively pleasant at the beginning of the interview. And, after we discussed the battery and moved on to Shannon, she was, her mood changed. Shannon Stillwell, your client, her mood changed rather dramatically. In fact, it culminated in her storming out of the room and basically running out of the office.
Right. And she made it clear to you that you shouldn't believe a word that Termon Stillwell says.
She called him a liar.
Right.
As she stormed out, I believe she called him a liar.
He's unreliable.
Right. That's what she said.
And you don't dispute that Miss Guffey knows Mr. Termon Stillwell very well.
No, she knew him pretty well. I mean, she was a victim on a family violence battery case, so you have to know somebody pretty well to be considered a victim of a family violence offense.
Okay.
Mr. Sharp, before you pose your next question, how much longer do you think you'll have?
I was about to ask like 3 more questions.
Oh.
Unlike Mr. Menendez, I think I'm being...
Who's 2 is not really 2?
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'll be the judge of that, okay? This is number 1. Coming up right here, okay?
Pressure on. Mr. Sprinkle, did Miss Guffey indicate to you that she was not... Did she ever indicate to you that she had heard Shannon Stillwell say anything about a murder?
No. Without even refreshing my recollection, I mean, the interview ended pretty abruptly after she realized that we were asking about Shannon Stillwell. It wouldn't have even got she was no longer participating in the interview. Essentially, towards the end. I was trying to ask her questions as she ran away from me. So
She told you that she doesn't know anything about the statement that Shannon Stillwell allegedly made to Tremont Stillwell.
That's correct.
That Tremont Stillwell claimed that she witnessed.
That's correct.
Okay. Are you aware of where Miss Vanetta Guffey is now?
Well, I've been told, and this I haven't independently verified it, but as of yesterday, it's my understanding she's deceased.
Okay.
She didn't die yesterday. I learned about it yesterday.
Right. I beg the court's indulgence, just briefly. Mr. Sprinkle, you, as part of your investigations, do you stay abreast to what's going on at 901 Rice Street?
Well, yes, particularly with respect to the jail calls.
Okay. Are you aware that there have been multiple attacks on my client, Shannon Stillwell, since, and when I say attacks, stabbings, he's been incarcerated this year?
This year?
Yes.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Are you aware of multiple attacks on Shannon Stillwell while he's been incarcerated?
Objection, Your Honor, as to relevance, as to whether or not the defendant has been attacked.
He's been incarcerated for a long time, and it's certainly relevant that he's...
We're going to get into this YSL. And for those of you that don't know what's going on, it's YSL and YFNW Melly beef. And then y'all going to understand what's going on with the nut situation. See, my opinion, I think Donovan, what's his name? Donovan Thomas? Donovan Mitchell or something? I believe he was a snake, but check it out.
Behind the music is a culture of crime, gangs, and violence. Two of ATL's hottest rappers been in the heated beef over the past few years that's led to threats on social media and violence. Let's dive into the war between Young Thug and YFN Lucci. Young Thug is one of the most influential artists in the game. When he first came into the industry, people were shocked by his wild behavior.
See, when Young Thug first came in the game, he was putting pressure on. Why ain't start like that? Lucci and Big Nut and all of them was cool. And then you would just pay attention.
Behavior, fashion sense, and unusual delivery. But over time, Thug gained the respect for being a true pioneer who paved the way for a new generation of rappers. Thug grew up in the Jonesboro South Projects in Atlanta's Zone 3 neighborhood. He was the second youngest of 11 kids. Most of his siblings were in the streets, so he jumped off the porch at an early age, around 8 or 9 years old. He started selling drugs and getting into fights in school, and was even expelled in 6th grade for breaking a teacher's arm. For that,
So Thugger was already wild.
spent the next 4 years in juvie. In an interview with Rolling Stone, he said he didn't have anything to do in juvie except gamble, fight, and Thug is affiliated with the Bloods from Cleveland Avenue, one of the main roads that runs through Zone 3 by the projects where he grew up. They used to call themselves the ROC Crew, or Raised on Cleveland. Thug was always the trendsetter and also looked at as a leader in his hood. So he started his own crew and brand called YSL, which eventually became his record label. YSL has been labeled a gang by the police, but Thug and others denied this and say it's a family and music collective, which stands for Young Stoner Life. According to Thug, YSL wasn't created to commit crime and violence, but to create legal opportunities for his friends and family. And if you look at Thug's accomplishments...
So basically, Thugger was trying to feed everybody he was dealing with. Good guy.
And what he's achieved in the music industry, it seems like it's been a success. Some of the first artists Thug signed were his day ones, Gunna and Lil Duke, with other names later coming on board, like brothers Lil Keed and Lil Got It, Yak Gotti, Strick, T-Shine, Unfook, and and a lot more. In a short amount of time, Thug built his own empire and made a promise to make all of his friends rich. One of Thug's early contributions to the rap game was using the word slime to refer to a friend or homie, or just a slimy activity. But it was first used by New York rappers like Nori, who used the term in a tweet back in 2009. Then it was popularized by Young Thug, who dropped a series of tapes in the late 2010s called Slime Season. Since then,
Them slime seasons was fire, I ain't gonna lie, y'all.
the term has been used by everyone from Playboi Carti to Drake, showing how influential Thug is. Young Thug made his debut in 2010, appearing on the song She Can Go by True Royal. Then he dropped his own solo mixtapes called I Come From Nothing Parts 1 through 3. This caught Gucci Mane's attention, who signed the rapper to his 1017 label in 2013. Thug then dropped the project 1017 Thug that same year, which got high praise from fans and critics and earned attention from magazines and media, who included the project on several year-end lists. So it seemed like things were really heating up for Thug. After Gucci got locked up in 2013, Thug started making more moves in the industry. He linked up with Birdman and Rich Homie Quan to form Rich Gang in 2014, leading to rumors that he might sign with Cash Money. Then, in 2014, he dropped the track Stoner, which became his breakout hit. On the song, he even shouts out his old crew, dropping the bar, "Hear my song way from YCC, ROB, SMM. Now we YSL Venom." YTC stands for Young Thugs in Charge, and ROB stands for Raised on Cleveland, what the Bloods call Cleveland Ave, where Thug grew up, and SMM stands for Sex, Money, Murder, which is an East Coast gang. So basically, he's talking about how he ranked up through other Atlanta gangs to make his own collective. But while Thug was blowing up in the industry, another rapper from Zone 3 was also gaining the buzz. YFN Lucci is a rapper.
See, that's when YFN Lucci start coming up. Thug start getting mad.
Who grew up in the Summerhill hood of Zone 3, not far from the Jonesboro projects where Thug grew up. Lucci went to Southside High School and played football, but after practice, he said he and his friends used to be in the streets trying to make money. Lucci's from a blood set called ABG, or Atlanta Blood Gang, which is a branch off of the Inglewood family Bloods from Los Angeles. He, his brother, and their close homies would form their own clique called YFN, which stands for Young Fly. Just like YSL, Lucci denies that YFN is a gang and says that it's just a music group and record label. But police look at it differently and say it's an influential set of the Bloods that Lucci controls. Lucci's brother, YFNK, was the one who encouraged him to start rapping, along with his best friend's older brother, Big Nut. Big Nut was a respected dude in Atlanta, who also had ties to Young Thug and the ROC crew.
Now that's who Young Thug allegedly ordered the hit on. That's Donovan Thomas or Donovan Mitchell.
He heard Lucci's music and believed in his talent, so he started plugging him in with people in the industry who could help his career, including his current manager, Fly. Fly also managed Rich Homie Quan, who was featured on the track Exactly How It Was from Lucci's first mixtape, Wish Me Well. At that time, Rich Homie Quan and Thug were still close because of Rich Gang, so there wasn't any beef between YSL and YNF. But as Thug was reaching the top of the rap game, and YFN Lucci was building a buzz for himself, a crucial event would cause a big split in the city of Atlanta. In January 2015, Big Nut was killed in a drive-by at a barbershop on McDaniel Street in the Castleberry Hill neighborhood of Southwest Atlanta.
This is when the beef started.
Nut was standing outside the barbershop when a car drove by and someone fired an automatic weapon. Another dude in his 20s and a 14-year-old boy also got shot in the leg but survived. Even though police ain't have a clear motive, they said the shooting was gang-related. Big Nut was a major figure in Atlanta, and his death was a loss to the city. Besides being close to YFN Lucci, he was loved and respected throughout Atlanta's hip-hop scene. It's not clear who killed Big Nut since his murder was never solved, but there's rumors that the YSL crew had something to do with it. Even though no one was ever caught, Atlanta police said Big Nut's death sparked as many as 37 other crimes, including 4 murders. So not only were the streets of Atlanta hot because of his death, it also led to a major split in the local rap scene. Lucci often talked about how much Big Nut helped his career and was a genuine friend to him. Rappers from Atlanta were forced to pick sides between YSL and YFN, with many past collaborators turning away from Thug, like Rich Homie Quan and Bloody J. But the beef wasn't held to just the industry, and things played out in the streets too. In an interview with Karen Civil, Lucci said that his childhood home got shot up multiple times, including once where his mother and her friend got caught in the crossfire. He don't reveal who shot up his house, but based on the timeline, many think it was the work of YSL. This just tightened the tension between both sides, and not long after, YFN Lucci and Thug got into a public war on social media. In February 2016, YFN took shots at Thug by going after those closest to him. First, he went at Thug's fiancée, Jerica Carle, implying that they slept together in the past. He tweeted, "I know you miss laying on that sofa with me, girl. #Rika." Even though he ain't mentioned her by name, Fans knew who he was talking about. He followed that up by tweeting, "I got your on a leash," and fly took a rich. Can't do nothing but respect him. But he ain't stopped there and continued going, saying he had text messages that proved he and Jerica had been involved. Lucci tweeted, "He gonna cry when he see these messages," following up with, "Go follow my Instagram right now, send me 100K followers, and I'm uploading them. Let's go." Lucci must have gotten the clout he was chasing, because he ended up posting the supposed messages, and it looks like it is between two people who are about to hook up, but there's no telling if the other number is really Thug's fiance. It shows Lucci asking the girl where she is, and she responds saying 8 minutes away. They send each other love and kissing emojis back and forth, and Lucci even tells her, "About to jump in the shower. What you doing?" And "You should have gotten in with me." Lucci continued trolling by adding Jerica and tweeting, "Miss you, bae." Then he turned his attention to Thug, tweeting a bunch of L's, and, "By the way, nobody wants your punk ass cuz baby boy inside it." Thug wasn't entertained by the trolling and tweeted back, "Shout out Solo Lucci, Young King." Then followed up with, "You just trying to get on, and if any upcoming rapper want to be put on, let's make music. I don't want to beef." But if that wasn't shady enough, Lucci continued going at Thug a few days later by tweeting a video of his daughter with the caption, "Happy B-Day, baby girl," along with a bunch of hashtags, including "Long Live Nut Forever." Thug is known to be very protective of his daughter, and once threatened to slap Plies for calling his daughter in an interview with Sway in the Morning. Thug ain't publicly comment on Lucci's post of his daughter, but it's likely there was consequences behind the scenes. After that, the beef died down for a little, while both was focused on their careers. Thug was rising to the top of the rap game, hinting that he was working on a joint album with Kanye, while also appearing on 2 songs on Drake's More Life project. Thug then dropped his 4th official mixtape, Jeffrey, in 2017, which was a critical and commercial success, and quickly went viral because of his famous cover art of him wearing a dress. YFN Lucci was also making major waves in the industry, dropping the track Every Day We Lit with B&B Rock in late 2016. That song peaked at number 33 on the Billboard chart and was one of Lucci's highest charted singles. He followed this up with the EP Long Live Nut, which was dedicated to Lucci's dead homie, Big Nut. Later that same year, Thug released his 5th project, Beautiful Thugger.
See, it's like they was in competition or something, but Lucci was heating up. He was getting his money up. Thugger had the money already. He was with Rich Gang.
Girls on June 16, 2017, Tupac's birthday. A few days after, Thug let the world know he purposely dropped the project on Tupac's birthday because he feels like the new Tupac. Thug tweeted, "I dropped EBBTG on Tupac's birthday because I'm the hashtag new Pac. I feel like I am the thug he didn't get to become. Hashtag, so I'm gonna finish what he started." YFN Lucci responded by tweeting, "Pac would have never worn a dress," with a clown emoji. Thug then went on a Twitter rant aimed at Lucci, ending it by saying, "Doing too much will become a deep sleep." So this beef wasn't just online. It had the potential to get very real. In 2018, Thug's right-hand man, YSL Duke, was involved in a shooting where he almost lost his life outside the Magic City strip club. Surveillance footage from outside the club shows Duke leaving and being followed by 2 men. He turns around and sees the dudes coming for him, so he starts running as one of them pulls out a pistol and starts firing. Duke runs around a car while the man is shooting, but luckily the bullets miss and he gets away. The shooter got arrested, and rumors were going around that Duke snitched. But Duke later posted the paperwork confirming that he didn't snitch. It's not clear exactly what caused the shooting, but it's been said it was tied to the beef with YFN. Something must have gone down that fans didn't get to see, because in 2019, Thug got back on social media and threatened to slap YFN Lucci and Houston rapper Sauce Walker during the Instagram Live. It's not clear what caused the diss, but it sparked a heated back and forth that reignited the beef. Lucci responded to Thug by posting a video to his own Instagram, calling Thug a gay slur and telling him he's not slapping nobody. He even called Thug a punching bag and a Sauce Walker responded with his own post, showing Young Thug with a boxing trainer, along with emojis as captions, including one of a woman in a dress. Thug clapped back at Lucci, telling him again that he would slap him the next time he sees him in public, and that "my teeth cost more than your broke-ass life, boy." So, the beef was back on, and it wasn't just for social media. A month later, YFN Lucci's car got shot up in Atlanta. Police arrived at the scene and found the victim suffering from 2 gunshot wounds, but it wasn't YFN Lucci. The victim told police that he was driving when shots rang out, spraying the car and hitting him in the shoulder. The Mercedes G-Wagon belonged to Lucci, but was registered in his mom's name. So, police assumed the bullets were meant for Lucci. Not long after that, someone spray painted the word "slat" on Big Nut's gravesite, taking the beef to new low.
See, that's disrespectful, man. Like, that's...
Slat is a blood phrase used by Young Thug and other YSL members. It's not clear if it was vandalized by an actual YSL member or just someone chasing clout. but either way, it added fuel to the fire. Thug would drop his debut album, So Much Fun, in 2019, and throw subtle shots at Lucci on the track Just How It Is. First, he drops a bar, justifying why he wore a dress on the cover of Jeffrey, rapping, "Had to wear the dress because I had the stick." This was also the line Thug said to Adam 22 on the episode of No Jumper, claiming he had an AK under the dress. Even though this bar ain't directly about Lucci, he was one of the haters who clowned Thug for his fashion choice. Then Thug rapped the bar, "Last tried me, almost got popped in Lenox." This bar is talking about the situation between Young Thug and YFN Lucci at Lenox Mall in Atlanta. It's not clear exactly what happened, but Lucci responded directly to the bar, posting to his IG story with slides that said, "Cap-ass album," and "Boy almost shitted on himself in Lenox, no cap." Thug responded to Lucci's comments by adding him and saying, "If I ain't like what you do for your mother and kids, I would have been killed you," with a bunch of crying emojis. But that ain't the only time YSL.
See, little things like that. That's what get people all caught up, man. Like, gotta be mindful, man. Gots to be mindful, man. Gots to. Them folks be watching, man.
Selling YFN had a confrontation at Lenox Mall. About a year later, Thug's artist Yak Gotti posted a photo to Instagram of himself standing on the trunk of Lucci's car in the mall's parking lot while throwing up the middle finger. Around the same time, a YSL member named Snakeface posted a video of a YFN chain claiming he jacked Lucci or another YFN member. On Just How It Is, Young Thug raps, "Nigga stole a chain, but I ain't worried, fool," which might be a possible motive for the chain snatching. YFN Lucci ain't even respond to the alleged chain snatching, but he did respond to Yak Gotti standing on his car. He hopped on IG.
He seen him in the mall. He gonna run outside and go stand on his car. That's weird.
Live and said he saw Yak Gotti at the mall and he just dapped him up. It wasn't until he left that people started telling him that the rapper was standing on his car taking pictures, which he considers a weak move. So it seemed like the beef was getting out of control, and it was only a matter of time before things got violent. But before it reached that point, YFN Lucci would get himself involved in some serious trouble with the law, which threatened both his freedom and his career. In January 2021, YFN Lucci was accused of being the driver in a drive-by that left one man injured and another man dead. Police say that Lucci, along with 3 other gang members, drove through the ops hood in December of the previous year and opened fire on another group of men. The other group ended up firing back, and a man named James Adams, who was inside the car with Lucci, got shot in the head. Adams was then thrown out of the car and left to die on the side of the road. Later that.
Now that's what Lucci in jail for now. There's something going on with that. And I'm really wondering is he's a key witness to Young Thugger case.
Same day, Kevin White, a dude who's believed to be one of the men Lucci and his crew shot, showed up at a local firehouse with a gunshot wound to the stomach. He was brought to the hospital and survived. Lucci's accused of being the driver and not believed to have pulled the trigger, but he was still charged with murder, aggravated assault, participating in criminal street gang activity, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Lucci turned himself in and then posted a $500,000 bond, but he violated the conditions of his bail by going to a recording studio and then the strip club. To make matters worse, the prosecutors say the strip club he went to was the scene of an alleged gang-related shooting that led to the drive-by that got him locked up. So his bond was revoked and he got sent right back to jail to await trial. If that wasn't bad enough, a few months later, Lucci was involved in a Georgia State RICO case which accused a bunch of Bloods of various crimes from murder to racketeering. Police used the rapper's social media and music videos to tie him to other Bloods sets from Atlanta to Miami. They claim that YFN was not just a record label and music group, but an official Blood set, and that Lucci had used his position as a famous rapper to order crimes on behalf of the gang. They used his participation in the drive-by shooting that killed James Adams as evidence, as well as another incident.
See, Lucci was getting busy.
Where Lucci supposedly strangled a man for playing his ops music. One of the dudes arrested alongside Lucci for the drive-by was Rayvon Boyd, who's a rapper from Miami that goes by the name CP3. Another rapper caught up in the indictment was Bloody J, who collabed with both Thug and Lucci before Big Nut died when he sided with Lucci. Prosecutors claim that Lucci and CP3 were attempting to unite the Bloods in Atlanta with the Bloods in Miami and use their music as a way to make money for the gang and diss their enemies. The dissing led to real violence in the streets, including the shooting where Lucci was allegedly the driver. Even though most of the evidence against Lucci is indirect, it's still going to be a tough legal battle, and he'll be locked up as he fights the case. So, it seems like his petty beef with Young Thug will be put on hold for the moment while he fights for his freedom.
So you're leaving me for NJM?
Yes.
But they don't even have a mascot.
That's kind of the point.
Ouch. Well, I am not paying for dinner.
Well, I'm saving money with this.
We just gonna tune out all this, man. We gonna see what's really going on. I'm gonna get y'all up to part.
3 people, including a 14-year-old. 1 man died.
Robbed, killed, got shot, stole, you know, everything. John got shot, you know, it will. My baby mama, and my little girl, and my mama, and her friend. Both of them got shot. One bad move can jeopardize, like, my whole life.
This is the secret story in Atlanta with them two.
Atlanta is arguably hip-hop's modern-day capital city. There's countless rappers to come out of the A, achieving legend. John the Locker, who went from trapping on Atlanta corners to their trap music booming out of the trunk of every passing car in Atlanta. T.I., Young Jeezy, Shorty Low, the Migos, Outkast, 2 Chainz, and Atlanta, today's Atlanta would make it out alive. And a lot of young people both through the music industry. But unfortunately, teaching infants how to throw up the blood sign.
Right now in the trench and keep pills. Oh, like you bitches up. You know all day, nigga. Wipe your nose, nigga. Wipe your nose. Yeah. Fine, nigga. Big B. I know this shit. Little baby rolling.
So, Thug really did come up in these streets. But what streets specifically? Well, Thug himself originally hails from the Jonesboro South projects, which were actually demolished in 2008. Young Thug described the slum-like project where he comes from in a Fader interview as nothing but roaches and rats. In fact, Thug has even referred to the area where he grew up as Little Haiti or just Haiti due to its crumbling resemblance to the developing nation of Haiti, with Thug even making a track called Haiti Slang and actually naming one of his own daughters Haiti. But even more significant in his music is nearby Cleveland Avenue, which intersects with Jonesboro Road, and thanks to Thug, over the years has become one of the most famous streets in Atlanta trap music. So according to Thug, Jonesboro Road and the surrounding areas are so rough they resemble an undeveloped economy. And with all that in mind, it's no surprise that Cleveland Avenue has been a gang stronghold for several decades.
So it's been gang activity out there for a minute.
Sometimes referred to as Cleveland Avenue due to its long-running association with the Blood Gang, who famously replaced the letter C with B, you know, because they hate Crips so much. And Young Thug has apparently been associated with the Cleveland Avenue Bloods from way back. Hell, if anything, it looks like Young Thug really boned up on his blood homework, because he's known to throw up so many blood hand signs in quick succession that it might as well be sign language. Now, the specific crew of Cleveland Avenue Bloods, who run the block that Thug comes from, is a crew by the name of Raised on Cleveland, abbreviated to ROC, or the Rock Crew. Sometimes it's restylized as RO5, once again replacing the C because they're Bloods, with other alternative acronyms for ROC being offered by Thug in an early Fader interview, including Rich Off Crime or Ready on Command. Basically, these are some serious Atlanta goons who are not to be played with. In fact, a 2011 bust on the Raised on Cleveland gang saw for the first time part of their operation exposed for the whole world to see, with US Marshals and an Atlanta police gang unit conducting a major sting operation on the gangbangers in Cleveland Avenue and the surrounding areas. This operation took 8 alleged members off of the streets, along with the seizure of 2 cars, $10,000 in cash, 4 guns, and drugs apparently worth 50 racks. Yeah. Now, it's not quite a BMF level operation, but it's certainly proof that the criminal underworld of Cleveland Avenue is definitely active when it comes to trapping. And this is the environment that Young Thug and his team came up around. In fact, old videos of the Rock Crew chilling on their block around 2009 still circulate on YouTube today, showing Young Thug running through the streets of Atlanta, surrounded by his homies back when he used to go by the name Lil Jeff, showing off his unusually fashionable hood drip and clowning his homeboys for secretly photographing his unusual white boy swag fits.
King of white boy swagger, right? Stand on one time, let lady folks see what you're doing now.
Hello?
You check him out now.
This is what he's doing. He's taking pictures of me at the same time, you know what I'm saying?
In fact, in a kind of unusual uniting feature, it would appear that the Rock Crew would all identify themselves by wearing matching Rockefeller jeans.
Hell, I ain't shit with the Rock Republic motherfuckers, you hear me, man?
God, let my boy Lil G get on there. What you call the wheel time of the day?
The motherfucker, he
Anyway, Young Thug and his affiliates have gone on to pay homage to the Raised on Cleveland crews in music. YL Stunner had a project called Raised on Cleveland. Lil Keed had a whole mixtape series titled Trapped on Cleveland. And there's a number of interviews with Young Thug early in his career where he discusses being part of the rock crew, describing it as more like a family or even a religion. Now, at a certain point, the rapping guys from Cleveland Ave started referring to themselves as YSL rather than the rock crew. Now, if you ask the Atlanta police what YSL stands for, they would say Young Slime Life, an official set of the Bloods in Atlanta. But if you ask Young Thug, especially on camera, he'll tell you that YSL is his record label, Young Stoner Life. A totally legal enterprise that he uses to legitimately, as he says, hire hundreds of members of his own family. In fact, in a since-deleted Complex article titled Inside the Snake Pit, The Rise of Young Thug's YSL Label, Young Thug explains how YSL operates unlike any other label in the music industry and is in fact a genuine
See, they've been getting busy, man. Like Atlanta, they active.
family. Now, in this long, rambling, and kind of strange article, we don't get that much of a substantial explanation as to how YSL conducts their operations very differently to any other record label, other than the fact that Young Thug seems hell-bent on giving legitimate jobs to his friends and members of his immediate family by the dozens. The article did go on to explain that after his 2014 single Stoner picked up steam in the industry, Young Thug got on the radar of big-time rap label 300. Now, at a certain point, talk of Thug getting his own record label came about, and weirdly, when it came to setting up his label, one of the only questions Thug really had for senior decision makers was how many people have you made a millionaire? Thug would actually go on to say that he wanted to use his YSL label as a vehicle to make all of his friends and family millionaires. So he went on to sign his day one friends Gunna and Lil Duke, later on with the likes of Lil Keed, Lil Got It, and Yak Got It.
So the crazy part about a handful of them told on it. That's crazy.
Joining the label, along with a number of other signees who aren't really that relevant yet. Now, that article goes on to repeatedly describe YSL as a family, and most importantly, going on to suggest that at this point, they don't engage in any extracurricular activities. Now, to me, this would suggest that the YSL movement represented Young Thug's genuine efforts to create a legitimate business, putting on all of the people he grew up with, taking them away from the risks of the streets or crime for good, with Thug using the enterprise to provide as many opportunities for those under his wing as he possibly could. Apparently, YSL has a massive compound in LA called the Snake Pit, with multiple studios where YSL artists can pull up and record at any time. So, YSL is a family, not dissimilar to how Thug kind of described the rock crew as a family or religion back in 2013. It's a really good thing that Thug's doing for his people. But again, the question still remains, what makes YSL so special? Why does YSL stand out? Well, actually, the thing that seemed to have made YSL such a standout act in hip-hop over the past few years is really how they pioneered the use of certain gang lingo in their music.
Say, and it's crazy because people had to tell them, people that got locked up in that crew had to tell them what them languages mean, them words and all that. Because there's no way they was listen to their conversation that long, and if they sleep it, if they speaking Islam language, you gotta understand. They don't understand what that's about.
Because if you know Young Thug and his songs, you probably know his lingo. One of the most popular catchphrases that Young Thug and the YSL movement are known for saying is slime. This is the word that Young Thug popularized in a lot of his songs, which can mean your friend, for example, you know, that's my friend, that's my slime. But the word slime can also mean a member of the Bloods. It can also mean to be slimy and untrustworthy, like a snake. And while you're there, slime can also be used interchangeably to mean kill or hurt. For example, we have to slime the ops down. Now, the use of the phrase slime is traditional blood gang lingo, originally associated with Vado and the New York Bloods, but Vado wasn't the first to use it. In fact, the likes of Noriega had been using it on tracks since 2002, including the intro track Hit Me Slime from his God's Favorite album, where we even hear Queensbridge legend Nas calling Nori Slime too. So, being a Blood straight out of Cleveland Avenue, the words that he explained to Sway that the meaning of the phrase slime was to mean untrustworthy.
Xing out. It's like, okay, you and me best friends, me and you hit a lick. We get 20,000, I cuff 10,000 and be like, it's only 10. You know, just like slime. Like, slime.
But he also enthusiastically denied it being a gang term.
So that's not a gang term or nothing?
Nah.
No?
A gang?
Gang, G-A-N-G, yeah, gang. No counters?
The thing is, there's not actually that much consensus on the exact meaning of slime amongst the YSL crew. Lil Got It defined slime as another name for the YSL crew themselves.
Slime, YSL. You're slime, that's stone like.
successful, like, you know what I'm saying? Folks be saying, folks on me be where I feel like they slime like.
But Goddett also denied Slime was a gang, once again echoing Thug's earlier comments that the YSL team are a family.
We slime. I don't know about these other niggas, but we slime. That's why I feel shit is a family. Not no gang, nothing.
See, it's not a gang, it's family. It's family. It's family.
Family.
But anyway, the phrase slime found its way into numerous early big songs of Thug's, and in some cases entire songs being based around the phrase, like the track Slime Shit, featuring YSL affiliates Pee Wee Roscoe, Lil Duke, and Yak Gotti. But as well as slime, there's another catchphrase that the YSL crew made popular and has since made its way all the way around the world. And that one is SLAT, which has apparently been explained as an acronym for Slime Love All the Time, a catchphrase that has been used regularly as an ad-lib amongst Young Thug, YSL rappers, and even beyond. At a certain point, the SLAT ad-lib became so popular, you can catch any number of famous rappers from Roddy Ricch, Lil Uzi Vert, to YNW Melly using the song, which to me is just more proof of how powerful...
So all I'm saying, slime, what they all supposed to get locked up to? Like, come on, man. Free Thugger.
Young Thug and the YSL slime SLAT movement has become in modern rap culture. But what does SLAT even mean? Well, Lil Goddett explained that SLAT was actually a slime greeting and farewell, like hello and goodbye.
SLAT, that's a greeting, or, you know what I'm saying, a farewell. Like, leaving, you know what I'm saying, SLAT.
And I tell you what, at a certain point, Thug's comments about YSL being a religion really start to ring true, because in one of the most cult-like practices of the YSL crew, apparently, upon joining the label, all signees are required to receive a SLAT tattoo on their nose-wiping finger. Because we can't forget that other catchphrase popularized by Young Thug and his YSL goons, wipe his nose, a slime-affiliated term associated with killing. E.g., we had to wipe that op's nose, a phrase which can be heard as early as 2014 on the Metro Thuggin' track, The Blangwitch. So anyway, that's the YSL crew, their complex background, history, and language. So I hope you can fully understand and appreciate where Young Thug and his YSL crew are coming from. As Thug said, YSL is more like a family.
So there's a family, man. And Gunna went on and did what he did and said what he said. So it's like, come on, man. Come on, come on.
Than a record label.
We gonna get into this Lucci. We gonna get into this Lucci right now, cause my opinion, I think Lucci got something to do with this.
Spawned a little-known crew in Atlanta called YFN, fronted up by their head honcho YFN Lucci. Lucci hails from Summerhill in Atlanta.
You know, I'm from Summerhill, so I walk over here with my boy, man. We just be kicking it, thinking about ways, you know, to get out. Like, how we gonna do it?
Now, that clip was actually from a Karen Civil interview with YFN Lucci called Welcome to My Neighborhood. And in that piece, he also took her to the Trestle Tree Village Apartments, a nearby project where his homie YFN Trey Pound is from.
Now we in Trestle Tree, this area right here. My boy Pound, Trey Pound, you know, he in YFN. I met Pound when I was like 8 years old. We went to D.A. Stanton. And then where he stayed at.
YFN Lucci broke down the realities of where he's from in a Vibe interview where he said not many make it out. And I'm sure you won't be surprised to find out that Summerhill is yet another ATL area associated with extensive gang activity. Numerous blood sets have apparently operated around these areas for a number of years, but according to Atlanta police, one of the most significant crews to click up and emerge out of Summerhill and nearby Peoplestown in Atlanta is the ABG, or Atlanta Blood Gang, with ABG sometimes also standing for Anybody Get It. Apparently coming from their members' willingness to act out violence on literally anyone. So yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with these guys. According to the Atlanta police, the ABG are also clicked up with other Atlanta blood sets.
See, them blood sets and them Crip sets, they real big out there. I see out there in Atlanta. And they try to say Young Thug, YSL is part of that. So it's like, damn, over 33 bodies? Come on, man.
Like the Bird Gang, apparently formed in the early 2000s in Atlanta's 4th Ward. And according to local police, Atlanta's many blood sets allegedly have ties to the original Inglewood family Bloods from Los Angeles. And as we're going to find out later on in this story, the Atlanta Bloods have other interstate connections that stretch as far as Miami too. So with all of these blood gang alliances, it's no surprise then that YFN Lucci was apparently also close to fellow Atlanta Blood Bloody J, a red rag rocking Atlanta rapper who was apparently getting it in blood way before Dirk and Pooh Shiesty was, with his his 2013 track Get It in Blood, showing a lot of people for the first time that Atlanta had a big blood gang movement too. So you've got the Atlanta blood gang running in the streets with the red rags, and much like YSL, if you ask the Atlanta police, they would tell you that YFN is another violent blood set that's committing crimes in the streets, as well as having ties in the music industry. But if you ask YFN Lucci, he would say YFN is not a gang, it's his rap collective and record label. YFN, of course, standing for Young Fly.
And the YFN means what?
Young Fly Nigga.
In fact, the full name is YFNBC.
Young Fly Nigga about cash, because it got a BC at the end. So it's Young Fly Nigga about cash.
And it's not just Lucci repping YFN either. He's joined by the likes of YFNK, his big brother who got him into rap, YFN Fat, who apparently became a blood at the ripe young age of 15, Ferrari Fred, or Fred Rari, a rapper signed to YFN hailing from Miami. Now look, we're going to get well into the music from artists on both sides of this beef, but for now, let's go back to the very beginning, because the beef between these two crews have a lot to do with their careers. Ultimately, both sides had the right idea. Lucci and Thug are both young guys from tough, gang-infested areas, trying to get out and make a better life for themselves and their families. And at a certain
Crazy part about it, like I said before, they was friends due to the fact the board nut was YFL Lucci brother, friend, whatever, and he was Young Thug friend.
point, both of them realised that they would be better off doing this in the music industry rather than in the streets. But unfortunately, after a long and difficult come-up, just as both artists were getting to their peak in the rap game, their unfortunate and violent past just kept on dragging them down. Now, Young Thug began to and to begin with, lyrics about 8 with 5 bands in cash in hip-hops and to find his name. So, to this record of Thug, gang collaboration project, the biggest bloods in America.
I got one of the biggest bloods in America with me, my nigga. You did, Atlanta, Georgia.
See, that's nut right there. That was his friend. Biggest blood in Atlanta.
This man's name is Donovan Thomas, aka Big Nut, and he's a man who would play a major role in the come-up story of YFN Lucci. But unfortunately, his life would be suddenly cut short, sparking a bloody war in the streets that would go on for years to come.
iHerb is an online store with over 30,000 products. They've got supplements, sports nutrition, beauty. I have been a fish oil stan since I got pregnant. I just wanted to make sure that like my mind, body, and all my systems were tip-top, and fish oil can help with that. Many of us are deficient in vitamin D. I like that these come in a gummy forms. Every product I...
So, YFN Lucci's big brother YFNK encouraged him to get into rap when he was a teenager.
My big brother, his name YFNK, he been rapping since I was like 13. Inspired me, made me want to make music. I started rapping, I freestyle for my big brother.
But obviously his big brother, who was an aspiring rapper himself, wouldn't really be able to get him into the industry. But fortunately for Lucci, having ties in the streets meant he had a network of people to draw upon who might just be able to give him a head start in the rap game. In fact, one of his closest friend's older brothers was Big Nut, that same man that Young Thug had described on Birdman's yacht as one of the biggest bloods in America. And Lucci would go on to say that Big Nut heard his music and truly believed in him.
Now, you're the close friend named Nut.
Yeah, that was one of my best friend, big brothers. And he would just like believe in me, like when he hear my music and shit.
In fact, it was actually Big Nut himself who had introduced YFN Lucci to Fly, who had managed Rich Homie Quan and Trinidad James as part of his record label, Think It's a Game.
Yeah, he introduced me to Fly.
See, now y'all see why Rich Homie Quan fell back off of Young Thug, cause of this.
So I know this person, we're gonna try to fuck with this person, but then we were fucking with somebody like, man, I don't think he knows too much. I'm gonna introduce you to Fly.
Yeah, Fly had Rich Homie Quan, he also had Trinidad James.
Yeah, so that introduced me to them. When he introduced me to them, and they were fucking with the music.
In fact, YFN Lucci would later reveal in a DJ Small's Eyes interview that it was Nut who introduced Lucci to Fly, saying that Lucci was the hardest rapper out and that he would listen to a strategy if Fly put one together for him.
He introduced me to Fly. He was like, man, Fly know, like, man, shout it, it's hard. Like, ain't nobody harder than him, man. He want to do it, he love doing it, so he gonna do it, and he gonna listen. And Fly, Fly, but that was his man, and he believed in him.
Clearly, Nutt's word held weight in the streets and in the rap game, and purely off the strength of Nutt's recommendation and his first mixtape that was completed but unreleased at this point, Fly decided to give Lucci a chance, releasing his tape Wish Me Well under Think It's a Game Records. With Lucci also getting a care pack courtesy of Fly, a feature from his label mate Rich Homie Quan for Lucci's first single, Exactly How It Was. And so, all thanks to Big Nut, Lucci finally had an opportunity to break into the rap game fully legit. And from here, Lucci would go on to have big career W's working with Think It's a Game Entertainment. But the saddest fact of all would be that Big Nut, the man that made it all possible for him, wouldn't be around to see it. On January the 11th, 2015, YFN Lucci's close friend and mentor, Big Nut, real name Donovan Thomas, is shot dead at an Atlanta barbershop.
And now to a developing story this morning. The search is on for the person who shot 3 people, including a 14-year-old. 1 man died.
Neighbors in Atlanta's Castleberry Hill neighborhood heard the gunfire around 7:30 Saturday night. She saw 3 young men on the ground.
See, this is when it started.
Atlanta police say a teenager and a man in his 20s were both shot in the leg. The third, 26-year-old Donovan Thomas, was critical.
Had a significant injury. We had at least multiple gunshots in the upper torso area. He was rushed to surgery.
Thomas died at the hospital. Homicide detectives looked for bullet holes and brought in a police canine to search for more shell casings. They believe it was a drive-by shooting.
Police believe the 3 two-adult men and a 14-year-old were targeted. Triple shooting outside this barbershop ended the life of 26-year-old Donovan Thomas.
Big Nut was loved and respected by the YFN crew and in the streets of Atlanta at large. And following his death, clips of him with the likes of YFN Lucci circulated on social media, showing just how close these two really were.
Cut, man. Straight up, man. Salute to you, big boy. Fucking with you.
Following Nut's death, it said that there was a massive fallout in the Atlanta music scene. YFN Trey Pound told DJ Small's Eyes just how shocked he was to hear about Nut's passing, with Lucci also speaking on the loss of Nut in his Karen Civil interview, remembering how Nut had been the first person who put him on in the rap game.
I lost one of my homies.
That was a big inspiration to him. Like, Thugger, that's why Lucci said you cross your own man, oh, nigga, you real feet.
Really got me on. Long live Nut, fellas.
Now, as far as I could tell, the police never announced any arrests or suspects in the killing of Nut. And while there's no concrete evidence to suggest that anyone associated with YSL had anything to do with Big Nut's murder, a lot of YouTube videos already exist explaining that theory. Countless comments have popped up on Reddit threads relating to this incident, suggesting YSL had something to do with what happened to Nut. But perhaps most significantly, the Atlanta police would later say, in an indictment targeting YFN members, that local police intelligence suggested that it was widely believed that YSL was somehow responsible for Big Nut's death, going on to state that it was this belief that directly caused the hospital.
It's supposed to have been because of a robbery. One of YFN Lucci niggas robbed Young Thug Group member, and then that's how it allegedly supposed to have started.
Hostility between these two groups. Now, whether or not this is actually true, we'll probably never definitively know. But it is clear that following the death of Nut, a big rift emerged between Atlanta rappers. Rich Homie Quan, who at this point shared management with YFN Lucci.
Didn't I just tell y'all that? Rich Homie Quan.
But was also closely involved in Young Thug and Birdman's Rich Gang project, would take a step back from things, with Rich Homie Quan's relationship with Thug famously declining, and Quan just generally taking a step out of the limelight. It would also appear that the former collaborative relationship between Bloody J and Young Thug would never be the same again too, as Bloody J would continue to collaborate with YFN Lucci, but not Thug. At a certain point, the city of Atlanta basically split into two halves, and according to the police, this is when the beef truly heated up, with the cops reporting that as many as 37 incidents and 4 subsequent murders that they believe were linked to this original inciting incident. But as both YFN Lucci and Young Thug would continue to have success in the music industry, picking up thousands of fans and making millions of dollars from their songs, eventually their beef would also make its way into the music industry for the entire world to see. Because no matter how much
man, let me get some likes ahead, man. Let me get some likes ahead. Some likes. Give me a like. It's 3 of y'all here. Give me a like, man.
Want to register for an LLC in 4 easy steps?
Don't try to leave.
Step 1.
Don't try to leave. Just give me a like. That shit free, man.
In the midst of the death of Big Nut, the war between YFN and YSL was heating up in the streets. During this time, a lot of the beef in the area was kept offline, especially considering the fact that in 2015, when Nut's life was taken, both Thug and Lucci were still relatively early on in their careers. So at this point, the kind of gang-related activity going on around these two artists was subject to far less scrutiny. However, in 2016, as YFN Lucci's career begins to pick up steam and he appears in a number of on-camera interviews, he reveals just how real his life in the streets of Atlanta has truly gotten, telling Karen Civil that his family home had been the target of numerous shootings.
When my house got shot up, I was out of town though, man. I get a call, my mom, they'll say the house got shot. I ain't even pull up in front of the house. They pull up like right here, and they was just shooting it like, you know, sideways behind the car in the street. They was in the street though shooting, cause that's where all the shell was.
Yes, apparently the ops were pulling up at YFN Lucci's house and straight spraying it up. But that wasn't the only time. Apparently they came back, and this time Lucci's own mother was left injured.
He ain't even...
See, his old mom got shot.
Here's what I'm saying. He like the house there, he say it happened again. We hop out, we come over here. Jew was in here, my big brother. Jew was in here. My baby mama, and my little girl, and my mama, and her friend. Both of them got shot, though, my mama and her friend.
Whilst he was forthcoming to Karen Civil about the details of the shooting, when asked about who did it in a Vlad TV interview, Lucci was much less forthcoming.
You don't know who did it. Street code, right?
So, at this point, the stakes in the streets of Atlanta are getting very high. And when mothers are getting hit, you know that the beef is serious. But even worse than involving mothers is involving children. And as the beef goes on, you will see that rappers on both sides of this feud aren't afraid to take it there, bringing their own ops kids into the beef just to goad their rivals. In February 2016, YFN Lucci took to Instagram to wish Young Thug's daughter a happy birthday, posting a video of her face, which I'm definitely not going to put in this video. An incredibly ominous and serious message from YFN.
These niggas was getting real disrespectful, man. Real disrespectful.
Lucci to Young Thug. But in spite of this kind of bold message sent on social media for the whole world to see, Lucci wasn't done prodding Thug. That same month, he also took to Twitter, saying that Young Thug's fiancée Jerica misses being on the couch with Lucci. He went on to infer that Young Thug would cry if he saw the DMs between Lucci and Jerica. Lucci would go on to post the unverified but supposed messages between him and Jerica, which weren't really damning or necessarily verifiable, but at the very least, if true, they would infer that Jerica had been to visit Lucci. Anyway, Lucci attempted to back up that unverifiable screen grab with a tweet saying true story, and another saying that he's got someone's hoe on a leash, going on to infer that he stole a rich person's girl, and atting Jerica directly saying that he misses her, shooting out another tweet to suggest that her denying this is a lie. And finally, ending his tirade by tweeting out 3 L's, which I assume were aimed at Young Thug. Now, Thug eventually replied in a tweet, suggesting that Lucci was just looking for clout, and another saying that if a rapper wants to come up, they should collab rather than trying to start beef. A month after this, in March 2016, Lucci does an interview with DJ Small's Eyes, where he suggests that he doesn't even know who Young Thug is.
You and Thug. I don't know him. Never heard of him.
Now, at a certain point, it would make sense for Lucci to set his pride and this beef to one side and focus on his buzzing music career. By this point, Lucci was just about getting to that next level. Since joining up with CEO Fly of Think It's a Game Entertainment, he'd gone on to drop his follow-up mixtape, Wish Me Well Too, just about landing in on the Billboard charts at position 183. This would be Lucci's first real chart hit, with Lucci and Fly both pulling up.
I think it was like jealousy. It was some type of jealousy. I don't know between who. But it was like some type of jealousy. Some type of jealousy somewhere down the line, man.
For a celebratory interview on The Breakfast Club. And in this interview, Lucci had some choice words. Not just for Young Thug, but also his fiancée Jerica. Doubling down on his earlier tweet shooting his shot at her, with Lucci saying he'll holler at whoever he wants.
Now, I saw you also was tweeting at Young Thug's fiance.
If that was his girl.
Well, I just want y'all. I want y'all to tell me what y'all think. Like, what y'all think about that situation? Like, they was in their bag, man. They was in their bag. They was doing all type of shit. And I got some more. I don't know how long y'all want to stay here, whatever. But you know, I'm playing Xbox and everything. I got some more stuff with that Drake and XX John. Write in the comment section if y'all want me to put that up and put y'all on that XX and Drake John. Why they think Drake is part of that XX Astancion murder, allegedly, and Offset and them. Like it's a lot of little things, man. A lot of little things going on. It's crazy, man. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, man. I'm gonna give y'all more content like this more often. We're gonna break the news down. We're gonna break these channels down. We're gonna do, and it ain't no hate to nobody. None of that. All rights go to the people. Salute to everybody content that I use. You know. And let me know in the comment section after this video what y'all think. I'm out.